What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bad Trader. Today we have a very exciting topic on the docket. We are going to talk about some bad trading practices, although in this particular case, they did yield some pretty good results. Donald Trump has disclosed all of his trading activity in Q1 of this year, and he made over 3,700 trades. They brought this up on CNBC's Squawk on the Street, and Jim Cramer had some very insightful things to say. Let's take a look.
But the president, the U.S. government got in. He could sell it and give that
and
the
according
number.
to the filings, the president's been trading some intel in the quarter. Yeah.
Trade.
Got nothing to say about
Well, yeah.
All right, don't worry. We're not having technical difficulties here, everybody, but we got to go.
So as you can see, Jim Cramer was at a loss for words when just Intel was brought up, and that is just a little drop in the bucket of what Donald Trump did in Q1. I'm joined as always by my risk and reward co-host Errol Coleman. Errol, how do you feel about this whole situation? Trump, perhaps rivaling Pelosi for one of the greatest traders of all time right now.
Yeah, some say that Pelosi has some great timing and great directional bias in decisions that they make on their trades, and Trump sounds like he's falling in the same bucket. But I got to say, Jim Cramer's reaction is quite hilarious.
Yes,
to say the least.
Just doesn't have any words, and there's been questions posed about is he upset about corruption in that response, or is he upset that he didn't pick better stocks himself? Yeah. It's a difficult situation, but yes, the full scope of this situation here. Politicians all obviously have to disclose their trades. Trump just disclosed all of his from Q1. It's a 113-page filing, and it details 3,700 trades, which, for those doing the math out there, is about 40 trades a day. So we're getting into almost algorithmic level territory with the frequency of that trading. 40 trades a day is sort of crazy for any individual, let alone somebody with as many responsibilities as the President of the United States. The total estimated value is between $220 and $750 million. The filings only require ranges, and those ranges grow as they go up. For instance, $5,000 to $15,000 is one range. That's obviously only $10,000, whereas $1 to $5 million is also a range, which is what leads to the width of that projection. He took big swings, $1 to $5 million positions on Nvidia, Microsoft, Oracle, Boeing, Broadcom, Amazon, Apple, all the big tech stocks, and then also took some big swings and found some very good returns on AMD, Intel, Coinbase, Bloom Energy, Intuitive Machines. Among that group, AMD and Intel were both 100% gainers, as was Bloom. Had some other 100% gainers in some smaller companies, Marvell Technologies, which lots of people have heard of, but also Iridium and Penguin Solutions.
Okay,
perhaps my favorite.
He's got a good mix.
Yes,
he's got a diversified portfolio. Some would say.
Yes, lots of tech for sure, but definitely getting involved all over the place there. So yeah, let's unpack this a little bit. I already alluded to the fact that that's 40 trades a day, but that is not good trading practice for the vast majority of people. The only people who can really get away with 40 trades per day is if you have an algorithm, something like a Jane Street situation. Those algorithms are able to do perhaps 40 trades a minute if they so wanted to, or you are a full-time trader that is glued to your computer all day, every day. Neither of those describe Donald Trump.
And I'm curious to see the behavior of some of those trades, because 40 a day, that's a pretty high frequency. And I'm curious to see if they're just opening positions, if they're open and closed positions in the same day. I'm curious to see, again, the behavior behind those and kind of the time duration behind some of those trades, because is he entering 40 underlyings a day, or is he scalping? Is he getting in and out of the market quite frequently on highly liquid names like we kind of just listed off there? Yeah,
and the time horizon would perhaps shed some light on how above or below board this is as well. If you're entering Intel in the morning, it does 15% and then immediately getting out, and then it comes back down the next day. Obviously that spells out foul play a little bit more than if you get into Intel and then 2 weeks later it has a nice run and you happen to just still be exposed like that. So obviously, not having diversification in your portfolio is not really ever the way to go as an investor or a trader. You want to be protected from things unless perhaps there's asymmetric information in play, and it's
an edge. He's got an edge of information, maybe.
Perhaps it's entirely possible. Allegedly. But yeah, let's talk about everything this portfolio is doing wrong and why it's managing to win anyway here. So first thing, obviously, overtrading. As we alluded to a couple of times, 40 trades a day. Bad. That's probably not going to be the smartest thing for you to do in any personal individual account that you are managing. Overtrading is one of the top 3 killers of accounts. I can certainly say that myself. I mean, you know, when I was in college, there was many accounts that I blew as a result of overtrading. Whether that be I'm losing, and I want to chase those losses, or you know, that's to say gambler's fallacy, or if you want to go hot hand fallacy and you're winning, and you think you're going to win the next one too. You're on it today.
Yeah.
Either way that you overtrade, generally going to be a bad thing. I assume you're inclined to.
Yeah, 100%. The only way that I can think that's not a bad practice is if it is on very small size. But I could imagine with these portfolios, they're probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of trades that they're putting on, and $40 or 40 trades a day. I mean, good Lord. I mean, what are you doing? What are you looking for? So, I mean, I think regardless of the size and the trade management, just seeing 40 trades in a day. I mean, I don't know what you could be looking for. I don't know what opportunities you might be executing on. So I'd say that's a red flag for me.
Yes, absolutely. So that's bad trader thing number one. All right. Overtrading makes you a bad trader. Beyond that, there is concentration without transparency. We're seeing these giant swings on big tech, on AI, and is that coincidental? I think that that's anybody's best guess. But if a retail trader were to try to recreate this with the information that is available to retail traders, this is probably not going to be replicable. Not without an algorithm. As an individual, clicking the button to place all of your trades, 40 trades a day, and finding success, especially success to the extent that success has been found in this portfolio, is going to be a very challenging thing to do.
Yeah, and I would say hypothetically, if you have like an information edge, like the politicians might, 40 trades a day might make a little bit more sense because you kind of know why you're getting in and out of the position rather than kind of just shooting guns a-blazing. So I don't know. I think an edge information, I'm not saying that's the case, but I don't think it'd be very far-fetched. I mean, these are some people sitting in some pretty high places.
Yes. So that's bad trader strike 2. We have overtrading and we have conviction, let me try that again. So that's bad trader strike 2. We have overtrading and we have concentration without conviction. Both bad. The third bad trader strike that I'm going to give here is that, as you alluded to earlier, the exit framework on these is not very well defined. There are some gains of 100%. There are some gains of 20%. There's the occasional loser. How long were we planning to hold any of those? Was 100%? Did that just happen to be the profit target on this one? And while 20% is the profit target on another one, there's no clear exit framework. If you look at the portfolio of a successful trader, even a successful trader at high frequency like this, you're going to see at least some correlation between entry and exit. When you're looking to get out, it's going to paint a picture that there was defined profit targets with every position that was entered, and generally those profit targets are going to be pretty close to each other from one position to another. If you're looking to get out at 20 or 25%, you're going to see exits around those numbers with pretty much every position that you take.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily going to see some that fly to 100% or more, and then some that are just 10 or 15%. You're going to be looking for those defined numbers, and I know that that's something that you were very passionate about as well with your trading style, is that you are constantly, you have defined entries and exits in mind all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at least paying attention to risk to reward and pairing that with your win rate and things like that. And again, I think with these positions, I don't know, sometimes from the outside, it can be kind of difficult to judge and see what people are doing, even by consistently seeing the entries and exits. And sometimes there's a method to the madness. And in this case, I mean, just seeing the results, it seems to be that there is a method to the madness. And I mean, I think it's going to be a guessing game to figure out, what that method really is. But I think you can only ask the person that's really sending the trades through. But I mean, when you yield those type of results, I mean, I don't know what else you can say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's 3 strikes, you're out. That's three bad trader strikes, you're out. Overtrading, concentration without conviction, and no defined exit framework. So you ask, how could you do all 3 of these strikes and still wind up millions of dollars? The answer, probably, allegedly, is information asymmetry. A retail trader is never going to have perfect information at any time. They're going to get access to information at the same time that the entire rest of the market does, which makes it very hard to get out ahead of big moves and see, 100% returns with any sort of consistency, especially on some gigantic swings, multi-million-dollar swings, some of these positions.
Yeah.
So if perhaps, allegedly, you had slightly asymmetric information and were able to beat the public to things, that is the key to making all 3 of these bad trading practices into good ones.
Yeah.
These can work in a world where you have asymmetric information.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess having an information edge, it always seems like you're either going to have an information edge or you're going to be able to capture or recognize this information before the masses. And I mean, it looks like he's probably leaning into a little bit of both, is what it seems like. I mean, I can't say that's exactly what's going on, but whenever we see these numbers come out, the only thing that I can think of is there's an informational edge there. Maybe he has some information that nobody else has. Look, I'm not making a case for insider trading. I'm not saying that, but the logic tells me there must be something extra behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yes, and if we step back and look at, some of the bigger insider trading convictions outside of politics over history, many of them are where people
Your
are
girl
able...
Nancy?
What?
Your girl Nancy?
Hey, Nancy's a great trader.
I'm not knocking.
Don't you dare say Nancy Pelosi has inside information. Okay. Nancy Pelosi is just the greatest trader of all time. She just happens to be better than Warren Buffett.
Right.
Nothing more than that.
Oh,
but no, if you look outside of politics, some of the biggest landmark insider trading convictions come from situations where people will hack into news stations and they will find news stories the night before they are going to be released.
Oh, wow.
When they are set up for
Sounds
release.
very illegal. Wow.
Yeah, and then they will use that information that has not hit the public yet, but is known to place trades.
Yeah.
And that's actually the way to go about
and
it.
I'm actually really curious about that too, because one thing that has kind of broke my brain is the fact that sometimes positive earnings, we get a negative reaction. Sometimes negative earnings, we get a positive reaction in terms of price action. Even with interest rates, sometimes we get that whipsaw type price action, and you would think clearly, okay, if we're cutting interest rates, that should be good. Sometimes we cut interest rates and we have the market tanking. So with that being said, just knowing when volatility is coming in the market definitely sounds like it can provide you some type of edge. I mean, they wouldn't do it otherwise, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So what can you actually take from this as a trader? The answer is, honestly, not a whole lot. These are not good practices. These are not good things that you should try to recreate in your own trading style. The market moved on tariff pauses, on Iran talks, on chip policy, and someone trading in that type of market volatility is going to have a hard time finding success trading 40 times a day. For options traders, this is a masterclass in why you see volatility spikes before major policy events. Someone always knows, and that volatility finds its way into the market. That's the efficient market hypothesis played out to a T. Information, whether it be public or private, finds a way to leak out. So you have to find ways to trade around that as a retail trader who doesn't have that information edge. So the irony in all this is that the bad trader framework is exactly backwards. All of these are bad behaviors: overtrading, opacity, conflict of interest, lack of risk management, lack of exit strategy, you name it. But they manage to work because there may be an asymmetric edge in information happening here. If you take that edge away and try to recreate these strategies, you're looking at a blown account.
100%. And I mean, I think the one thing that this really tells me is the fact that depending on who you are and if you're in certain high places, there's some people that take advantage of that information. And I mean, I almost feel like this is like a real world lesson because this US stock market is so regulated. So to be able to see these kind of returns, I mean, we can't discredit Warren Buffett now. So I mean, whenever I think about what could be going on behind the scenes, I think that's what it tells me or speaks the loudest.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. But that's going to do it for us today. Be sure to let us know in the comments if you think that this is all happening above board or if perhaps there is some corruption in play with Donald Trump's trading strategy. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to go over the PDT rule change and all the implications that has on traders. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the Tasty Live YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss what we have coming up next. We'll see you guys next time.